Awesome.
You ready, 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 ready?
Are you ready?
That means yes.
Hello, friends. Welcome back to Board Game Co. I'm Professor Meg.
I'm Alex.
I'm Devon.
And this is going to be the continuation of the top 100. We did the last video already. That will be part of the playlist. You can check that out. But this is going to be 90 through 81. Going through 10 more games, 30 between the three of us, unless there's crossovers.
Crossovers.
There might be crossovers.
Never.
We had one.
Did we?
Do
Kind
we
of.
Welcome
count
to
that
the
one?
Welcome to the Moon does not count as a crossover.
You don't count it?
Nope.
Really?
Different games.
I think we'll have crossovers. I think there are... I don't want a spoiler alert.
Never mind. I know we'll have crossovers. So the way crossovers work...
Maybe not within the same video.
Correct. And the way crossovers work in general, you can do what you want on your end, is I'll call out, I'll be like, and now I have a crossover with your last number, but if
Yeah.
you say a number now and I know it's coming later, I won't say it now. I'll wait till later.
Yeah, no, I wait till later as well.
No.
Except for, no, never mind. Anyway, starting off the bat, links to all these things down, not links, timestamps to all these things down below. These lists we talked about in the last video, but very short note. We generated all these through PubMeeple, a ranking engine. We took our list, we put our games in, we ranked all the things. We did some adjustments to the numbers when we wanted to make those adjustments to the numbers. Devon's looking at me because he's like, oh, you're using adjustments now. Anyways, and we are going to continue starting off the bat with my number 90. Actually, before I do my number 90, Meg, can I just ask one question?
No.
Is the... My number 90!
I love it when someone asks questions that they don't expect to have a different answer to than what they want, and then they get shut down.
My number 90!
Do you want to ask?
Is the Flamecraft Dragon here for a reason?
He's my buddy. He's here for emotional support.
Is that because you have that game?
Is it
in
number
your-
90?
Do we have a crossover? Crossover?
No. My number 90 is a game with cute little critters, almost as cute as this dragon, a game by the name of Cockroach Poker Royale.
Oh.
Not actually as cute as the
I
dragon.
was about to say, you and I have very different definitions of cute.
Cockroach Poker Royale is a bluffing game that has become my go-to bluffing game. From a variety of bluffing games that are all fantastic, from Skull, from Sheriff of Nottingham, from Coup. There's a bunch of bluffing games out there that give you a lot of fun of an experience of trying to, well, bluff. But Cockroach Poker Royale has become my go-to in the sense of just quick, accessible play. It's the classic end-of-night game. Plays great at 3 and 4 players. Decent at 5. Do not play it at 6. And it's just this passing cards hand-to-hand as you try to stick people with the various bugs
It's
on
so
those
good.
lists. It's just satisfying.
It's so good.
It really is my end of the night filler. It's not really an in-between game filler. It's not a star of the night. It's kind of like, okay, it's 1:30. Maybe we're done, or maybe
Maybe
we
Cockroach
play
Poker.
Cockroach Royale. That's when you can't play Crokinole, of course. But yeah, that's my number 90, Cockroach Poker Royale.
I think that was one of the first games we played together.
Was it the first or one of
No.
the first? No, Tile Blaze was the first.
Right.
Tile Blaze.
And we played a few others that night. We played
Yeah.
Atlantis Rising.
Atlantis Rising,
And maybe something
Inish.
else as well.
Finish, and then Cockroach Poker. Yeah.
You sent me Inish. I need to play that.
Yes, you
Good
do.
game. It's a good game. Yes, that's correct.
I feel the same way.
Spoiler alert, Inish may be higher on our lists. Not yours. And
Yeah.
that's my number 90.
My number 90 is Inish. Just kidding. My number 90 is another one, going back to the last video and talking about kind of how the pandemic has shifted some of the ways in which I try to play games and hang out with people at the same time. My number 90 is 6 Nimmt. Have you guys played this at all?
No.
I love that we have very similar kind of genres for our 90s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You haven't played this at
No.
all? So it is
Six
a
Nimmt, otherwise known as
fantastic...
Take 5 sometimes.
Yeah, so it is this fantastic game. I play it exclusively on Board Gamer, and I don't have a physical copy of it. And it is a unique little push. Not push your luck isn't the right term, but it's this weird navigation in which you start off with a certain amount of points. I think it's like 66, and the goal is to have the highest points by the time someone ends a round less than or at 0 or less than 0. And so you lose points. And the way that you lose points in this game is by you have this row and you have cards that are in a certain order. Like, you know, it may be 5 in this one, it may be 60 in this one. And within each row, you're going to play in one of those rows each time. And you play a card that has to be higher than whatever row you're going to play in. So if this row has 67, you can play 68 and up. But there's only like 4 slots in the row after whatever the first card is. And so in the beginning, first few plays, you're pretty safe typically because other people are going to be playing in other rows. But you can get to the point where, say you have 67 and 70 in this row, and then it goes up to like 105. If someone plays 75... but you played 80 hoping to go in this row, and then someone played 82 hoping to go in this row.
Everyone's playing their cards simultaneously.
Everybody plays simultaneously.
So you're trying to predict, you're like, oh, there's 2 spots left in the row. Do I think I'll get the right spot, or have I
Yeah.
taken the whole row for negative points?
Yeah. And so for someone, like if 70 was the one there, if you have 71, you know that you're safe
Right.
and you're going to be the one that goes first in that row. But if you happen to get unlucky and you're the third one in that row, then you're this final card, and your final card is the one that will now be
Start
at
the
the beginning
next
of the row from now on, and you take whatever amount of points are in.
I love you like explaining the entire game.
Yeah.
She
Well,
doesn't
that makes
she
me
never
think,
played
It's going to be a
before.
very long
And
video.
you could even have like 73 and think you're fine, but then you have
Yes.
71, 72, and you're like,
Yeah.
Yes.
Imagine the
Yeah.
mind if it were like competitive. It almost has that kind of weird.
So- yes,
aspect to
that's
it.
Makes
actually
me
not
think of
that
other
bad.
game that we played, where you're filling out the numbers.
Tranquility.
Tranquility.
Yes, same idea. Yeah, so it's 6 Nimmt. It does very much fit in the timeline genre. Like I think there's differences in the rules because I've played Take 5, and the core concept is clearly the same. But like this 66 thing you're saying does not ring any bells to me.
You start at a point value that I think is in the 60s.
Well, and it makes sense as well because 6 Nimmt is 6.
Yeah.
Like Take 6 and Take 5 is different, and I don't remember. Either way, same basic idea. It's a very fun party game.
Yeah, my wife destroys me at it. She'll end the game and she's like, "Oh, guys, I have like 35 points left," and I'm like, "I've got -5. My friend's got -4, and someone else has 12. So it was close. We almost beat you this time." But
Aw.
it's such a fun game.
It's very solid.
And it's like whenever you're able to whenever you're the one that's like, "I've got the 71, so I don't care." You know, you're 72, 73, 74. You're like, "I don't care."
And you're playing with the
You're
same hand
screwed.
the whole game, if I recall correctly.
So you're playing with you play through a whole
Yep.
set of hands, and then,
And you
typically you reshuffle because
Yep.
someone's not down to 0 yet. And so we've gotten to the point where we've played through 3 or 4 full rounds before someone hits 0 or lower.
Yeah.
And
it's very solid.
it is also like you get better at the game, and so it gets a little bit more like, kind of like bloody in terms of like the experience with other people, but it's a lot of fun.
Nice.
G-Meg.
All right, my number 90. I almost said 30 because you were saying so many numbers. You said 35
66.
twice.
My number 66 is...
My number 90, or 06 to some,
Exactly.
is Castles by the Sea.
Oh.
Castles by the Sea is by Brotherwise. It is very charming.
Is this the new
Prototype. Doesn't
Yeah, it
exist
is a
yet.
prototype.
Okay, I was like,
No
this
judgment.
is the new one.
No
isn't it?
judgment.
Prototype.
No judgment from us. The 14 people down below. She's putting prototypes in the
Yeah.
top 100 now. Okay, cool. I'll get that game.
You might be able to
Eventually.
pre-order it. I don't know. I'm not even sure. It's very, very charming. You're playing in a beach, which is a hex grid, and you're acquiring these wooden blocks that are sand tokens, and you're using them to make different sand castle shapes. So there are different shapes you can make, and then there are different workers that you can place that will also score you points. That you're basically just trying to, score the most points each round, but you're building up your castles and building it with other people's things. And then there are also monsters and things that can, like, there's a dog that will ruin all your things and like come in and knock the castle down. It's a fun puzzle. It's like a light, fun worker placement building puzzle, but it's so charming, and the wooden blocks are just so fun.
Visually, it looked like Flamecraft by the beach.
Yes.
It was like in terms of like the kind of style, because I haven't played the game, the prototype of it or anything, but I saw the animation trailer for the Kickstarter. And I was like, this looks like very charming.
Yeah, all
in
the
terms
all
of
the
the
creatures
aesthetic.
in it.
Yeah, it looks very cool.
It's
I
like
want
things
it.
that you can find at a beach, so they have like a bottle cap as their shield or something. They're very
That's
much almost
cool.
like the borrowers.
That's cool.
Yeah, they're
I
very,
like
very cute. It's really fun. I really love that one.
89?
89 for me is I have to double check my list, but I believe this is the only game in my top 100 that I have not played in the last year.
You said I haven't played.
That I haven't played. And I'm
Haven't
like,
played.
well, let's just throw out the rules conventions for
In
this.
the last year. So in general, when I go through my top 100, I don't mind including things that I haven't played. If I like it enough, I like it enough. But things that I haven't played, there's often a reason, and they recede a bit, and they drop down. Like Pandemic Legacy from the last list, that's a good example of one that I kind of was like, you know what? I think I'm ready to call this a not top 100 game anymore. But Empire's Age of Discovery, for me, is my number 89, despite having not played in the past year, although I've tried. I've tried multiple times. The rulebook is out. We had that one time that we were going to play it, and other people wanted to play something else. I have tried playing it.
Someone doesn't sound bitter.
Empire's Age of Discovery is from Glenn Drover, actually designer of Mosaic, actually. Same designer of Mosaic. And it's a worker placement game in which you're worker placement area control kind of game, but there's a degree of customized workers and a whole cascading aspect where you're placing your workers on the
Is it
side.
here?
It is here. It is, if you look underneath Vindication, there's a big box over there. See Vindication?
Oh.
So Empire's Age Discovery, big box. It's big.
It's
huge. Oh,
huge.
you're referencing. Callback. Nice. Yeah, so it's a huge box. It's a lot of fun. Lots of ships, lots of worker placement. The expansion built in. It has the Builders module built in. It's because it's a reprint of an older game. Either way, it is a really, really, if you like area control, if you like cutthroat competitiveness, if you like a degree of just trying to figure out how to build your tableau and improve your workers and improve your buildings and all this, it's a good, I want to play it. I want to play it. It's been too long.
What's your 89?
My number 89 is Soulforge.
Ooh.
Soulforge Fusion?
Soulforge Fusion.
Okay,
Sorry,
gotcha.
yes. Soulforge Fusion. I just call it Soulforge. But Soulforge is Stoneblade title. It's by Justin Gary and...
Yes.
It's by Justin Gary
Richard
and Gary...
Garfield.
Yeah, and the other Gary
Richard
has
Garfield.
also worked on it.
Richard Garfield.
No, the other Gary also... There's...
Oh, you mean Gary on the Stoneblade team?
Yes.
Oh,
Yes,
okay.
yes.
Yeah.
Either way, it's a card game where you are playing different cards, and as you're playing them, you get to upgrade your cards. So you have a silver, a bronze, and a gold card, and as you play them, you start adding those into your deck. It's very similar to something like Magic, where it's a battling game that I just really love. As someone who started with TCGs, it felt so satisfying to play that I played TCGs about 10 years ago, and when I played Soulforge Fusion, I said to my friend Nelson, I was like, you made me feel like I was 22 again. It was just so much fun to feel that competitive nature of a card game again. I really enjoy it. I think there are a few things that could be improved on it, where I wish it could be a little bit stronger, especially with the quality of the cards, but that being said, I have so much fun every time that I play that I really enjoy it.
Yeah, the production kills that one.
Yeah.
That
for
game
me.
bothers me. Like, it really bothers me
Yeah.
because I like it. It bothers me because I like it, and I have so much fun playing it, and every time I'm like, it just feels like a cheap game.
It almost feels like it's... Like, I at one point, I saw a final production
You
copy,
thought
and
it
I
was
was like,
prototype.
I thought it was still a prototype.
I think the quality's not great, the components not great, the box is not great. I even think the templating, the graphic design, I think could be much better.
Yeah.
I really like the gameplay though.
Yeah.
It bothers me so much.
Lane-based battling is a lot of fun for me.
Yeah.
Like, I was... when you were talking about this, I was like, have you played Radlands yet?
No.
So good.
No.
You haven't played Radlands?
Oh, you want to feel like you're playing Magic the Gathering? That's a good game.
Yeah.
That's a good game.
Yeah, and I would say
We need
something
to...
that's...
That's fast enough. We need to... After this.
Right after this. Right after this.
After this.
No, the problem is, like, and the worst part is because of the nature of what Soulforge is, I don't even have hopes that there's going to be like, oh, the reprinted version. Because the very nature of what it is, it means that likely never will be a reprinted version of it.
Yeah.
So
This is not even me, like, this is not me trying to, like, poop on a game. Like,
No, I
I'm
love it.
annoyed by it because I liked the
it.
game.
Yeah, it's
I was
popular.
like, I was like,
obnoxious.
So,
Yeah, a piece that I think is really frustrating about it is that you do have the lane battling, so you need that kind of format, and it comes with a paper fold-up map.
well, it's also the paper fold-up map doesn't have the full thing on it.
Yeah.
There's actually, like, parts of the card slots that are cut off.
Yeah.
And
And
I was
they do
just
have
like-
neoprene mats, but you have to get those.
I don't, like, if a game's bad, I don't even care. Okay, you're a bad game.
Yeah, but
they're a
then
dime a dozen, but it's
then
a
the
good
neoprene
game.
mat
Yeah.
doesn't have the text on it.
Does it not?
The neoprene mat has the art on it, but it doesn't have the text identification of the slots like the mat does.
It's just like one of those
Do you need
things.
If you're using it as the primary way to teach people the game, and, like, I mean, if you know it, you know
Yeah,
it. But and with a lot of games, some of the neoprene mats don't have what the board has. But because the original is so lacking, I'm like, if this is what I'm gonna use, I'd want at least this to do the same thing.
Good
Right.
game. It's a
So
good game.
yeah, this is genuinely born out of frustration
Yes.
because I did like Soulforge Fusion and I
still-
wanted more for it.
I have it in my collection, and I keep debating: do I buy more sets or do I just like burn it and move on?
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyways,
89 for me is another solo experience. So last time I said Rolling Realms, but for solo, and this is Friday.
ooh, I like that game.
So I played Friday for the first time 6 months back or something like that, and I just had a really good time with it. It's a game that you can
That's
take
really-
with you, huh?
I don't know this either.
Okay, so it's a small little solo game. It's kind of like Robinson Crusoe or
Thematically.
Castaway, where you're on an island and you're this gruff bearded guy and you're just
Well,
trying to
Friday's
survive.
literally from Robinson Crusoe.
It is.
Yeah,
Okay.
Friday is the character who helps Robinson Crusoe.
Okay, well, in just visually, like, or culturally, I immediately think of just Castaway.
That seems
so.
reasonable.
And so to me, it's like I'm playing with Tom Hanks.
And this volleyball.
There's no volleyball, so it's so in terms of airplane games that you could just take with you, that would be a great one, because it can play. You could put it in a little wallet or a bag or something. The box itself is very small, much smaller than Rolling Realms.
It can get a little expensive to play on a airplane tray. But yeah,
that's fair. It's a fun little game, and you can dial up the difficulty if you start to get the pattern of of the first time. But it's also a tough enough game, or like a circumstantially you'll just get unlucky that, like, even if you're playing on the lowest level, you could still die.
Effectively, the game is deck building or deck weeding, as you try to build out and take these challenges on. As they beat these challenges, they become part of your deck, but you're also using the opportunity to weed out the bad cards from your deck. And I think people often walk into that game being like, you can never beat it. You can never, like, I see a lot of people who are overwhelmed by how difficult it is.
I beat it on my first game.
Until they figure out, or happen to do on the first game, the pattern. Like, for me, it was one of the first solo games I ever played. I tried it like 4 times, lost every time, and I was like, that and Space Hulk Death Angel, and I tried them both, and I moved on. And I didn't come back to solo games until Spirit Island like 3 years later, and that's when I fell in love with solo games. I've since re-gotten Friday, and now I destroy.
And so the thing on Friday, though, is like, that sounded a little like prideful. It's like, I beat it on my first time, but it was much more like, when we played deck building games, you very much more, I don't know if this is a learned thing from previous times, but you are much more intent than I am about weeding my deck. I'm always much more excited
100%.
About getting certain cards. And but you very much more weed it. But on that one, I was like, you know what? I'm going to aggressively weed my deck, and it worked out really well for Friday. And so it's just a lot of fun. Even though you're like trying to survive, it's got very pleasant art. It's like very vibrant greens and browns and oranges and stuff like that.
That's gonna kill me.
Yeah, it's exactly.
Yeah.
So,
I was gonna say I could take it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
by all means.
You would like it. I think
good.
you would enjoy it.
Nice.
So yeah, no, 89 for me is Friday.
And what's your 88?
88 for me is Santorini, which I did not think it was gonna get this high.
It got bumped out of my top 100 this year.
Because I have this game primarily to play with Avery. So this is an abstract that I don't like enough to choose to play it on my own, typically. I usually play it with my son. But I've kind of realized when I was doing the top 100, like I mentioned in the last video, there are certain games I was like, you know what? Like, I was like, I do need to like take a step back and recognize how easy these are to have fun with. And I was like, I think the thing that Santorini that I haven't ever got to experience, because I'm playing it with my son all the time, who's 9 right now, is like having the true experience of playing with someone else who's like my level, my age, and has the experience to play with these asymmetric god powers and really get into like a chess battle.
Are you saying you don't play it like a 9-year-old level?
I play everything at a 10-year-old level, and just like the developmental difference between a 9-year-old and a 10-year-old is astounding. And I was like, I pretty much barely win against him every time. And I'm like, I'm tired of barely winning.
Ricky has won against me many times in Santorini.
So I really think that it's actually got a lot of merit to it, and I do enjoy it. I just think that the reason why I have it in my collection has given maybe a skewed lens through which I perceive the game. And that's not really fair, given, I think, how good the game actually is.
This is something that Meg and I talked about, even we talked about as well, when we were ranking them. It's like, when you're doing Pub Meeple and you're like, do I play this or do I play this? Like, Oathsworn versus Gloomhaven. That's an easy, like, mental comparison to think through.
Yeah.
But, like, Codenames versus Gloomhaven is like, how do you even compare these aspects?
Yeah.
And for me, a lot of it does come down to how good a game is versus the barrier to actually getting a table.
Yeah.
And so there's almost this weird ratio line, and many times, very simple, accessible games that I do not like on a purely sensible level of how much do I appreciate what the game is doing. It might be less, but I pull it out and play it.
Yeah.
And so it's more.
Yeah.
But yeah. My number 88 is Foundations of Rome. Have we all played this one?
No.
Oh, have you played that one?
This is one of the ones that Meg and I were talking, because he has so many more games than we do, but Meg and I had this issue where we started off by importing into Pub Meeple just our collection. I don't own that game, and it was one of the ones that has slipped through the cracks that I didn't personally add into the text entry.
Yeah.
Well, you still
You
can
can edit your list.
I
Foundations of Rome was so
throughout
good.
this video that I need to add in. You
And
describing that other game?
Acropolis.
Yeah.
Acropolis.
Did you forget Acropolis?
I forgot Acropolis. There will be an adjustment to my list.
I'm like,
It's on the way.
Yeah.
It's on the way.
I
Oh my
forgot,
gosh.
man.
The amount of games that I want that aren't yet here and are available to purchase is usually a small number. Acropolis is on that list.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Anyways, fine. Spoilers.
You've caused drama, Alex.
Foundations of Rome is a really solid game by Arcane Wonders. It's a game that definitely is very much about the visual impact of what this game is on the table. If you have the Sundrop version, the thing looks beautiful. As you develop and build out your city, it just looks freaking beautiful.
Yeah.
But past that, there's an actual mean puzzle at play as you place polyominoes down to build your engine, but then as you replace polyominoes to screw over your opponents, because you're like, oh great, I'm going to go ahead and put this building down that scores points based off population, and I'm next to all the population, and I'm like, okay, well I'm going to trash that population building and move it into another building entirely just to deny you points. Meanwhile, I'll convert it into a civic building that gives me points based off your civic building that you thought you... It's mean, it's brutal, there's like 14 different modules they have, like 5 modules. Like 5 modules that come in the game, ways to mix up the experience, adding, you know, various leaders or events or trading and stealing and things like that, just to adjust the way the gameplay is. It's just really, really good, and it sets up for the giant box that it is. It's this giant box behind you over here.
Sets up like that.
4 minutes.
Yeah.
It sets up in 4 minutes, and it's just so easy, so beautiful, but it is very expensive.
I've played that game like 3 times now, and a couple different times when I've been playing, I'm like, I can't wait to play this with Alex.
It's good.
And like hate change out buildings and stuff like
good.
that. I was like, ah.
Yeah.
I'm not editing my list for Acropolis or for Foundations of Rome.
I absolutely am.
But 100%, Foundations of Rome is amazing.
I will find a game to
so
push.
good.
I
will find a game
I really
to
want
push.
to play it.
Yeah.
What?
That's one that-
Have you not played Foundations of Rome yet?
But
Oh.
every time I visit, that's one of the ones that I'm like, I wish
It's a
we
good one
had
for when
time
Akiva's
for it.
over.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you physically? Oh, it's right there.
Right there. Yeah.
It plays fast too.
I know.
We
Wait,
after
wait.
this.
After this. Anyways, 88 Meg.
My number 88 is Empyreal, Spells in Steam.
I still want to play this.
M with an E.
Yeah.
Imperial with an E.
Imperial. E-M-P.
Yeah. that wasn't me correct. That was just me mentally going, not
I heard
Imperial,
Imperial
I
too.
am. Okay. Yeah, this one looks so cool.
Yeah,
Yes.
so it's a route building one where you're getting different resources and you're building out your train routes to try to gather those resources. But it has like a little bit of a steampunk edge where it's all trains and you have different conductors and the hero boards are very like fun and cool. That I think it's very thinky. I think it's one of those things that it's beautiful and very well designed, but also very thinky and challenging. That I really love the route building system of it. I think it's really well done. Also, shout out to how they do the storage. The storage in it within the box is also really well done, that some games don't do that well, and I think they handled that really well with how much it comes with.
How's the rulebook on that one? Is it pretty easy to
I don't
learn?
remember.
I still want to play this. I have a copy.
I think it is,
with
because
me
I don't
to play.
I think I
had a
tried to
hard
look at
time
the
with
rulebook
it.
one time and I was like, not right now.
Yeah.
But I don't know if that circumstantially happens to a lot of games, but that's not like just
Come play at my house.
Okay. Can I come play?
Come play.
Okay.
You're invited.
Can I come play?
Yeah,
After this.
I don't remember it being too tough to learn. And I was the one that learned it and taught it. So
Nice.
yeah, I don't remember the rulebook at all, but I don't think I had a hard time with it.
If you don't remember the rulebook, to me that's
Yeah.
a good indicator that it
wasn't bad.
It wasn't
Yeah.
a bad rulebook.
There's a handful of rules that are like, that was so good. There's a whole lot of rules you're like, that was a lot.
That was bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And most, if you don't remember, it's probably fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay. Cool.
Yeah, it's
Very cool.
charming.
87.
Oh gosh. My number 87 is a game that I have sent people to bed crying over. It's The Resistance.
Okay.
Resistance. The Resistance. Was that a bubble one for me? The Resistance might have been a bubble one for me.
The Resistance takes a very specific group. It's a hidden role game where there are different spies, and the spies are trying to mess up the Resistance's plans to do certain missions. So the spies know who each other are, and they're basically trying to understand which spy is going to throw the mission, and maybe they're not throwing missions. You have 5 rounds to do so, and it's very, very fun.
Quick question. When you list this on your list, are you talking about
Resistance.
Yeah, I haven't
original
played the other
Resistance?
one.
Have you played Avalon?
No.
Okay,
Original
or
was
Quest, and
Yeah.
because there's a lot of different
After
ones.
this. I have Quest.
I thought you were saying, let's wait to talk about this until after the
After this.
video. You were so
No,
soft.
we-
I didn't
Hold your
realize you were.
we need a 4th player for this one. Quest needs a 4th player. But Resistance has 5. Quest lowered the number to 4.
Yeah.
Yeah, The Resistance is one of those games where it's very much about the people at the table and talking to them directly and trying to cast blame and, make people think that it's someone that it's not, which is really fun. Yeah, gaslight everybody. That it's very much not about the game itself. It's about talking to each other. And it is the type of game that needs a very specific type of people. There are some people that if everyone's pointing at you and blaming and saying, you are the spy, and they're not, like, sometimes they can't handle that.
Yeah. Social deduction games for me, because this was one that I, like, really agonized over when I was doing my list in terms of, like, when it would come up against a game, how I would rank it on Pub Meeple. And I think it's unique that social deduction games, for me personally, when I'm thinking of how much I enjoy them, are very rarely actually the game itself, and much more
the experiences.
My memory of the people that I play it with. It's not even like necessarily the experiences, because I have good and okay and amazing experiences with certain people, but those are games that, like, if I have certain people in my life that are around, I do not want to play those games with them. And it's not because they're, like, better than me and it's hard for me to play against them. I love lying games. I love bluffing games. But it's more just like, some people do not receive the superficial level of toxicity that can be thrown across the table.
That's a great way of phrasing it. The superficial level of toxicity.
Yeah, it's just like, it is contextual to the game, but some people do not, like, filter out the fact that it's contextual to the game, and they take that from, like, a social perspective from the person itself, and they take it personally, and it can ruin a game, like, so quickly. I watched
a couple. One of them was to the other's face, being like, I swear I'm not the person. I'll do all, like, they're like trading chores. Like, if I'm lying, I will do every single one of these things. Yeah. They were lying, and they're like, of course I'm not doing this thing. It's part of the game. It's like, I don't want to be. There's a level here. No. You're going outside the game.
Couple stuff is way worse, because Amber and I don't attach any, like, level of emotion outside of, like we don't do that.
Like, they were taking outside the game aspects, bringing it into the game, and then being like, well, screw that. That's outside the game.
But you know what that means, though, is that's kind of the weird, toxic communication that happens regardless of the game, and I'm just like, it's like, I don't want to be here.
I think one of the hardest parts about the game, too, is that I've definitely had those moments where I've put it together and I know exactly who the spies are, and then trying to convince the people that aren't spies that it is the spy.
Yeah.
Like, just believe me.
Sometimes you get to a point where you're like, okay, fine, screw it. We're all going to lose. But I told you, screw it.
I think for me, outside of... I'm not going to talk about other social deduction games, but outside of Resistance, not like the reason why Avalon and Quest would probably at this point be higher for me is the only thing that game-wise I can say against Resistance is because it doesn't also assign roles, which can restrain people. Then I did have numerous games of Resistance where people would be like, okay, mathematically and logically, it only makes sense to keep doing missions with the first 4 or 5 people at the table. And if you weren't in those 4 or 5 people, I had games where, like, the 5, 6, and 7 people, or 6, 7, and 8 people at the table were never taken on a mission, and therefore never had the conversation directed at them, and never really got to be involved, except for, oh, this is where we're mathing out, which means now, be a deduction, you guys must be this. And so it was like, it was a very lopsided social involvement based off of how people liked to math out the game.
On the plus side, those extra 3 people, they're all still married, so, yeah.
They're all excellent communicators.
But for the record, I am never the spy. I'm never the spy.
I will clean up the kitchen if you are telling the truth.
My number 87. I don't know if either of you played it. I think I may have played it with Devon. I'm pretty sure I did not play it with you. I don't know if you've played it outside this. But it is The Reckoners.
No.
The Reckoners.
Brandon Sanderson. I have not played this with you.
The Reckoners is a cooperative experience.
We have tried to get this to the table, and other things have not come around. And
The Reckoners is a cooperative experience of you all playing as the Reckoners, a team of anti-heroes effectively trying to take down the various evil villains who are just, bad people, and they're using their powers for bad and all those things. And that's the thematic aspect of the book. It's very similar to The Boys. If you've watched The Boys, then I think, or read The Boys, I guess, it is thematically similar.
They're similar?
Thematically, it's very similar. Like,
interesting.
When you play The Reckoners...
I love The Boys.
Like, the first time I played The Reckoners, I had just been finishing... I read The Reckoners, but I just finished The Boys, and I was, like, mentally playing it as The Boys, kind of, and it did work for me. But overall, I think it is I think it's very simple, accessible, and challenging. All those things. It's just the engine as you build
It's
up.
a big box.
It's a huge box. The biggest thing against it is table space in the box are kind of obnoxious in the way they are handled.
Are they necessary?
Unmixed. I think they add. I don't think they're necessary.
Is it necessary for me to drink my own?
But I think that overall, the experience is Yahtzee. That's what it is. It's rolling dice Yahtzee style, getting a few reels to assign your actions, basically. Your dice are your actions. But then the leveling up in the game, it is one of those games where it's all about, you know, the bad guys are stronger than we are. Can we level up faster than they're being obnoxious to us to ultimately survive as the health of the city slowly ticks down? But it's fun to roll the dice. It's fun to assign them to actions. It's fun to cooperate, be like, can you take down those two people? I'll take down this. I'll go ahead and research that baddie. You take down that epic. It has a lot of communication and cooperation as you work together. It plays well at 2, 3, 4 players. I don't think I've played it more than 4. I think you could play more than 4, but it's just really, I just like it. It is solidly fun. The expansion just adds even more variability to the experience.
Nice. 87, right?
Yeah.
87 for me, I think I'm the last of the crew, is Codenames. And this has made it on the list
So worst thing.
solely from me and Meg playing the game
Aw.
together.
The game I forgot about.
Did you forget about? When I said Codenames was Gloomhaven.
No. When we played a game together, after that, the next game we played together, I was like, oh, this is the first game we played together. And you were like, we played Codenames
Oh, that's you.
together.
That's you.
It felt very, very offensive. But no, so this is the kind of game that I would typically never choose to play. But as Tim says on Codenames Live, which is the game show
Twitch.
that I have done it with Meg twice now, is he kind of was like, this is how you play Codenames.
Twice?
Yeah, we've done it.
Yes. That's funny. That's funny.
We've won both times, by the way, Meg. Anyways,
welcome.
it's you are a better guess giver, and I think I'm a better guesser. I think we've established that.
I'm a giver.
I'm the taker. But it is very much a fun experience with the right people. And like kind of going back to what we were talking about with social deduction, it's the kind of game that the base of what it is only elevated by who I'm getting to engage with it in. There are other games that I can play, and it really doesn't matter who's at the table because I like the game so much. But this is much more about what the person around the table helps create the experience for. And Codenames has just been a blast. I've really loved it. I like the kind of like ribald and like inappropriate, you know, silliness that we get up to on that game show. Tim Riel does a really great job with it. And
Yeah, check out Codenames Live.
essentially Codenames Live is the reason why this is on my top 100 list. Because I've had such a fun time with it. And it's like, there are other people in the hobby that I know, like, if we got together and played, then I'm like, oh yeah, I would have a blast
I
with
will
it.
never turn down Codenames. It's always delightful.
This is also in the same exact, like, other people are split up. These Codenames Duet is in the same arena for me. I didn't put both of those on the same on the list.
Yeah.
I would also say something that gives it an extra step of fun with Codenames Live is that Tim is almost on both teams. You have someone who's like an active spectator, which you don't always have when you're playing games at your house.
Yeah.
And I think it's really fun to have someone there that's kind of pitching for both sides and engaged the whole time in like the game itself and not a particular team.
The Blitz mode also works as
Yes.
well.
Blitz mode.
The
Love
Blitz
it.
mode.
Blitz
is
mode's
a lot
my
of fun.
favorite. It's so good. They're
Yeah.
giving like no time because like part of the thing of the Blitz mode is timed where you have like 7 seconds and like my favorite part is I just want to guess as rapidly as possible because the other team has time to think of their clue.
Yeah.
So I'm like, oh, you just said this for this. I just like, immediately go for it to give
Assassin.
you no time.
Yeah.
We won't talk about the assassin. Alright, 86 for me is Caesar sees Rome in 20 minutes or something like that. It's basically the newer version of Blitzkrieg, which is like, you know, World War II in 20 minutes. But Caesar and... What are you looking at?
I was just looking at my list.
No, him. He's looking around.
Now I'm trying to think if it's...
On your list, if you forgot about it?
No, if you put it above Blitzkrieg, or if it's just
I'll
additionally...
save you time. I pushed Blitzkrieg off the list for Caesar. To me,
Interesting.
that should be a play that's not that. For me, Blitzkrieg and Caesar are very similar. Both from PSC games. Both of them are very similar in the sense they really do give you a very tight tug of war in 20 minutes. A very well done tug of war.
Do you like the spatial map more?
I like the tokens that can go to different regions more. The fact that when you place down a token, the way you orient a token to different regions, and it's basically affecting multiple things at once, I like that more than Blitzkrieg, where you're placing down a token in a singular region. So I like the dynamic aspect of multiple things being affected in a single move more than I like Blitzkrieg.
That's what I meant. The dynamism of the map versus the
single
arenas of theaters of war.
And I think, even within Blitzkrieg, I prefer the Nippon expansion, which has more of a dynamic aspect of things shifting around the board. But either way,
Blitzkrieg solo is also like Dark Horse great. It's
I've never
good.
played a solo.
It's tough.
Interesting.
Blitzkrieg solo is a sleeper.
The game basically involves trying to get greater control over different regions, and you're placing tokens down, and when you place tokens down, the tokens are double-sided, and you orient them towards different regions. So as you place things down, you're slowly affecting multiple regions at once, and then as a region gets closed off, you eventually score it and take control, and that's when you start having the shift of who's actually winning the game as you try to like tally everything up. It effectively comes down to two-player tug-of-war in 20 minutes, and it's just really elegant and really well done.
Have you played either of these?
No.
I think you would. You're vicious 2-player. You would love both of these games.
They're both great games.
You would love both of these
Why,
games.
thank you. What a compliment.
No, that is for me that's a compliment. So.
That's an 86.
86. 86 for me is another game that is in the same realm of conversation as Santorini, and that is Azul. I like Azul, but it's definitely a game that I play for other people's desire to play rather than typically my own. But I've played it multiple player with adults, but the only time I've played it 2-player is with Avery. And the reason why I was like, I can't discredit or discount what the 2-player experience could be is because of the hate drafting that Alex is like, every time I've talked with him about this game, he's like, you've got to play it 2-player, and it's murderous. It's an evil game, and I love it.
I played it at 2-player.
We have.
You're like, yes, and I wrecked you.
Azul at 4 to me is a waste of time. Seriously, it's a waste of time. I don't consider Azul to be a good game at 4. There's so many games I'd rather play, and I feel so like ambient to the fact that someone else takes things. It doesn't. I literally do not understand the appeal. I recognize I'm in the minority, but I do not understand it.
I'm in the same boat as you.
At 2, it is delightful. That aspect where I'm like, those 3 tiles, they would score me a lot of points. I'm going to leave them there because they're going to screw you.
Yeah.
It's so vicious.
Yeah.
It's fun.
Anyways.
So Azul is on there. I really do enjoy it. I play it for a certain reason right now, but I understand the potential of what it could be in certain circumstances, especially at 2-player.
Nice.
So that's 86 for me. Have you done your 86?
Nope.
No. My 86 is another Brotherwise title, which I didn't realize would be in the same...
Night of the Ninja?
No. It's not going to be the boss monster.
It is.
It is.
I know.
I did not like boss
I
monster.
showed it to Alex. And in thinking about it, I think for me, I rank it higher because it's nostalgic. So for me, Boss Monster, I went to PAX East in 2012, and that's when I demoed and played Boss Monster. And I picked up that and Ascension, and those were one of my first board games. So for me, it is definitely a drop of nostalgia. But instead of playing as heroes, it's a video game-ish, like 16-bit based game where the art is very flavorful like that, but you were playing as the monsters instead of the heroes. So you have a monster, you're creating a dungeon that these heroes then have to try to go through, and the point that you're trying to do is kill them. You're trying to kill them in your dungeon, whereas usually if you're playing a video game, you're playing as the person trying to jump through all the things and make it out. So I like that it's flipped like that, and it's
that is a cool like inversion of like point of view.
The concept I think is very enduring.
Yeah, and it has this room building system where you can only build certain rooms on top of others, and then if you destroy them, certain things can happen for what's covered underneath, and you're just drafting these heroes to die in your dungeon.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's your 85? Roll into 85 for us.
Before I keep talking.
I love how he's like, I will give it a compliment and then I will stop talking.
My 85, which I forgot, we talked about Stonemaier games last time, and I didn't mention this one, but it's a Stonemaier game, Libertalia.
Ooh.
The new one,
The
Winds
new
of
one.
Galecrest?
Winds of Galecrest, yeah.
I guess it has to be, because the old one isn't Stonemaier.
You're like, no, the non-Stonemaier games one is my favorite Stonemaier games one.
Libertalia is one that I think is very fun because you have different crew members and they're all numbered, and depending on where you go, you can either take actions first in one phase or first in the other phase, and there's also just a lot of that almost Azul-esque where you can screw your neighbor and take things from them. There's a lot of cutthroatness going through it because you're pirates and you should be. And I think that one plus the production quality, because again, like Azul, it has those square tiles that are just so fun to touch and play with. That
That's
I
the
love
new
the
one,
production of it.
That's the
Yeah.
new one. So the new one
Yeah.
has those chunky tiles.
Yeah.
The old one is not.
They're really fun.
For me, Libertalia, the new one, is one of those games that is like, it's almost an entirely different experience based off the play count. Because like 2-player has that midshipman tile that it completely shifts up the are you playing to the left or are you playing to the right of the midshipman tile. And then on solo you have like
Solo.
2 extra little decks. You have an Automa deck, but then you also have this other card that is always played. So no matter what player count you're at, there's always 3 things up top. At the 2-player, you have the midshipman tile up there, and then at 3-player, you have the Automa card, and then also like a pirate or like vagabond. Like it's another card up there as well. I can't remember what it is. So you always have 3 cards up there, but at 1 and 2 players, the way that you determine what the value of that is very different. And then at 3 and above, you have a lot of different decision space. I actually enjoyed this game more at solo and 2-player. But the thing that I was like disappointed by when I played it, because I've gotten rid of it since I've had it, and the reason for that is a lot of people were like, one of the reasons we loved old school Libertalia was it was one of the most fun games to play at 5 and 6 players. And they're like, because it's just this chaotic amount of stuff. But I kind of got to the point where when I played it at that player count, I can't remember if it was 5 or 6 or whatever, but I played it at one of those 2 player counts, and it was at the point where, because everybody has the exact same deck, it was chaotic, but it was chaotic in a way that I never felt that I had control over what my card that I was playing actually got for me. It was chaotic in the sense that there wasn't a way that I felt happy to navigate. I could get lucky sometimes, and 2 people played this card, 2 people played this card, and my card had the effect that I wanted. And I get that like sometimes I think it was the length of the game while being chaotic, because
I've said this about a little bit in the past, that and it's a game that I really enjoyed, but also has left my collection. And I've said the same idea that at higher player counts, it's a higher game. At higher player counts, it's almost a party game that isn't party enough. And at lower player counts, it's a strategy game that I'd rather play other heavy strategy games. So I really enjoy it every time I play it. But it's one that I eventually
the party aspect of it is like I don't have enough control over my decisions, but the game is the same length of time as other games that are that complexity level or that big that I do have more control over. So it hit this weird space for me, and I was like, I don't know if I'd play this often because of this weird middle ground that it sits in. But I do like a lot of stuff that's going on there, and the reason why I was so excited about it, and one thing that you might like, is that the designer of that is the designer of Blitzkrieg and
Palomori, right?
And Caesar Palomori.
Yeah.
So,
Well, and I've only played it at 4 and 5 players. That I've been playing a lot more solo games. That's one that I didn't realize there was a solo mode. Now I really want to try it.
Every
Stonemaier game has solo because of the Automa system.
I want to try it.
But yeah, I'm curious to come back and tell me what you think of that game after playing solo, because it's a very different experience, but it's also more calculating, I think. So
you're 85.
85 for me is Tranquility, which is the first ever game that we actually followed through with the after this.
No. We've done it after this before. We did it literally filmed, continued the video, and just filmed the gameplay. I grabbed it. We just continued the video.
It was the longest outro Alex has ever had on his channel.
The cutting the Terraforming Mars bags might have been larger.
Oh, you did that? That's hilarious. But no, Alex and I actually, for my first time playing the game, was the outro to a video that I did with Alex. And I had a lot of fun with it. I like, kind of going back to 6 Nimmt and other stuff, I like timeline or order games, figuring out where something goes. Speaking of timeline from the last video, and I really had a good time with it, and it's also just like peaceful. I love the visual aesthetic of it.
Beautiful.
It is a gorgeous game. Alex was also super generous because he was like, I'm going to give you the nicer version of the 2 copies I have because I actually like how this material shuffles more. So I'm going to give you the nicer quality one. I was like, Oh darn! Unfortunate for me.
Yeah, I had a copy of the game. Lucky Duck sent me a copy through review, so at that point I just gave like when I get games that I like and enjoy, I try to give those away to people. And like Tranquility is just an easy one.
Yeah.
I really enjoy it. It's beautiful. I don't actually know if I don't remember if my top 100 is either just outside or it's in there, but I do really enjoy it.
Yeah.
It's peaceful. It's engaging. There's modules in there that to mix it up and mix up the experience a bit, and it's beautiful.
After
So
this,
I really enjoyed it, but it is a bit frustrating when you're at the very end and you can't make it work. That's something that's very sad and like disappointing, that you feel like you're making it work so well, and then at the end you're like, we just lost. It's done. It broke. And it is a bit frustrating if you can't make it work at the end.
See, I cut my teeth on feeling despair like that with Dead of Winter back in the day. So it's like, oh, we just played this game for 2.5 hours. And our morale's down to 0, so we just lost. All right, good 2.5 hours. Tranquility, though, it doesn't take 2.5 hours, so it doesn't hurt me as much.
Yeah. My number 85 is Bus. Bus from Capstone Games and from Splotter as well.
Splotter.
Bus, you played Bus, sounds like.
I own it, yeah.
You have not, have you?
No, I just know he owns it. That's why I said yeah.
Bus.
I've seen
I
it
love
at
how
your
you
house.
answered it for me.
Bus. Oh, that's right, because wasn't that the bus that was...
That's
right,
yeah,
you
someone
repositioned.
yeah.
Bus
That's
is right there.
Yeah. Bus
Next
is...
to Quest, actually.
Exactly. It's next to Quest. Bus is... It's a Euro game that plays in roughly an hour, which is one of the best things about it offhand. It gives you a tight experience of it in an hour as you deliver, basically trying to make passengers deliver to all the right places they go. They're going to work, they're going to the bar, they're going back home, and there's a cycle of how they go and what they're trying to do.
They
You're
go to
trying
the
to
bar?
build... They do go to the bar.
That's fun.
We should play Bus.
Let's play Bus.
After
The
this.
weirdest thing about it, Devin, is...
The time?
There are
You
no
have this
buses.
random time travel mechanism of the game. It feels so out of place to what the game's doing. It's like,
It's so quirky and intrusive that I kind of love it. It's almost an endearing randomness. But
It's like, here's this game about creating passengers and routes and getting people to where they want to go. Also, randomly during the game, there's a moment where you can just travel in time. It's like, what is happening here?
love that.
yeah, but it's like public transportation if like Miss Frizzle from
I was just gonna say it's the magic school bus. Come on, kids.
Bus is excellent. It's amazing, and it gives you an amazing
really
experience
thinking that at the
in
same
roughly
time.
an hour or so. I really enjoy it. Highly recommend it. It's not my favorite Splotter game, but it is the Splotter game that plays in the shortest amount of time.
that is one of the few games that like when I played it I was like, this is elegant.
Yes.
And like that was just like my one word that was like, that's what that is. I was like, this
beautiful.
is just a
Good game.
such a pure experience. So good. I
Meg,
really
you're
like
85?
Bus, yeah.
I think I did 85.
I think maybe you did. I
My
don't know.
85 was Libertalia, but I'll tell you my 84.
Devin, what's
My
your...
85 was Tranquility.
We
so
did
I guess
all the
we're on to
85s.
84. What's your 84? Tell us.
My number 84 is ranked a bit lower for me because it was a personal problem learning the game. I had a very hard time, I don't know why, understanding how the game works
I'm
and
like
how you
begging
should be
myself to
doing
not
it.
be a game I taught her.
You didn't.
Okay.
We've never played it together.
Make
Moonrakers.
this about you. I love Moonrakers.
Moonrakers I enjoy, and I enjoyed it a lot more once I gave it another shot. But the first time I played it, I didn't have enough actions. Like, I wasn't able to... I don't know why I wasn't understanding, and I also didn't want to work with other people. It's one of those things where you can barter with other people and try to get them to help.
Reality.
You know, you're like,
I'm
yeah, she
understanding the
knows it.
problem.
Have you played with Alex?
No.
I really like Moonrakers.
Yeah, I had a very
My
hard time
reactor
at the
strat
beginning.
has yet to fail me. Extra actions.
Oh, of
extra-
course,
extra
yeah.
actions,
That's one of the things
extra
that throws you off, because when you first play the game, when you first play through Moonrakers, it feels like you have a hand of 5 cards, and then you're like, and I get to do 2 cards,
Right.
1 card. Okay, cool. I get to do nothing. I
I
have a hand of
kept
5
getting
cards.
stuck and not being able to do the thing, and
Yeah.
I was like, I don't know where I'm messing up, but I don't want to ask you for any assistance, so that's where I'm messing up.
Yeah, you have to kind of get over that part if you want to play Moonrakers. Now, one of the nice
Yeah.
things about the expansion, and this is interesting, because Moonrakers is not in my top 100, I debated putting it in based on the expansions I played with, but they aren't out yet. And without those expansions, it would not make my top 100.
I have
With-
all 3 of them at my house.
So do I, but I don't count... For my top 100, I try to only count games that exist in the state they are available to purchase. Moonrakers with expansions is top 100. I had to actively move it out because I was like, I don't think it counts. Because base Moonrakers, I found that when I play with people, like probably you if I played with you, I found that Moonrakers ends up being a great game if you play with the right group of people, and becomes just an obnoxious experience when you play with people who are just not interested in cooperating, not interested in working with you, who are like, I'm going to take the worst deal, and you're like, okay, fine, so we're just not having fun together. Good to know. Good story, bro. And so,
Man, you guys
That's what
play
it's
with
like
the
to play
wrong
with me.
people.
I have played
You guys
Moonrakers.
play with the wrong
The
people.
first time I played Moonrakers, I loved it. But as I played with other people, I was like, this is an inconsistently good experience, and inconsistently good experiences I don't have patience for. And so then for me, when the expansion came out, the expansion further incentivizes cooperative play, basically making it
all
so that
three of the expansions do such fun things. But I still like the base experience.
I like the base experience, not top 100 like. And so expansions, it is top 100, but you'll have to wait till next year to find that out.
You have it though here, right?
I do. I have it with the expansions.
We could try it?
We could try it.
Okay.
I love Moonrakers.
I'd like to try the co-op version.
There's a co-op module too, which is actually my favorite way to play.
That was both of you guys have done 84, right?
No,
Yes.
that was just 184 for Meg.
Oh yeah, you were just talking
Oh,
about
that was her Moonrakers, but you and I got invested in it and started talking about it like it was ours.
Our 84 is Moonrakers.
What's your
Our
84?
shared 84.
My 84 is a game that I'm 90% sure neither of you have played. It's Lancaster. Yeah.
The Queen. The
Queen game, big
Queen
box.
game, Lancaster.
Lancaster is... Oh, it's so good. There are some games that just hold up in terms of being older experiences that when you play them, you sit there and you're like, this is why this game is still in circulation. This is why people still talk about this game, and Lancaster is one of those games. It is worker placement and the fact that you have these knights. You're going to upgrade these knights throughout the course of the game, and it feels like you don't have enough time to get anything done because you start the game with like 2 knights and just like 6 rounds of play. That's like 12 worker placements, but you manage to upgrade and add more knights as the game progresses, and you're constantly bumping people out. So you place down your knight, you place down your little 2-strength knight over here, and my 3-strength knight can bump your knight out. But you can also pay things as well to make your knights more powerful. And so there's a constant puzzle as you try to figure out where you want to go, but almost tempting people. Oh yeah, knock me out. Go ahead, knock me out. I'm going to go ahead and come back later. You're trying to balance around knowing that people are going to be ejecting you from spots while you try to take those spots and then power up your people or get more people. Would you rather have 3 level 1 knights or like a level 3 knight that's going to get what it wants? There's all these interesting little aspects going on. And then you combine that with a whole voting module where players, not module, it's part of the game, where you are all voting on the powers and the enactments that will happen in the game. And so there's an aspect of working with others because I might be the best in this thing, but if you guys both aren't, you're going to vote against me and I won't score points for being the best in that thing. So you kind of want to align with what the party is doing. There's like a little tiny bit of like green team wins mixed into this worker placement game as you try to align yourself with other players, making sure that you're not the odd man out in the pathways you're seeking. It's brilliant. It works really well. It has a ton of modules that haven't even played with it all.
Should we play right after this?
After this video.
After this, my 84 is a game that I have played one time, and I don't own it anymore, and I'm refusing to give up on my belief in it, and that is Nemesis.
Interesting.
I have played Nemesis one time. I've played it competitively, not cooperatively.
Semi-cooperatively. There's no competitive straight up.
Sorry. I played it with the ability to betray people. Which is only semi-cooperative, you know. There's only a small chance I'm going to get stabbed in the back. I did not have a great game.
Terrible game.
But I can't give up the fact that I really do believe I will love this game. It is got so many things. Huh?
You got rid of it?
I bought it, had it in shrink, went and played someone else's copy, did not have a good time, and went and sold the game. And I regret that.
Oh, okay.
And I want to... Alex and I have had this conversation where we're like, we want to play this full co-op and do this right and do this again.
Well, I'm open to playing semi-co-op too. I think it was partially about the group.
Yeah.
For me, like, Nemesis is a game that I still have it, but I'm with you. I played it once cooperatively. I had a really good time. I like this is an incredible storytelling experience. I love it. Then I played a semi-co-op, and I don't know if it's semi-co-op or the group. The reason I think it's partially the group is because semi-co-op is considered to be the main way to play Nemesis.
Yeah.
And so, like, it's one of the few semi-co-op games that people are like, yes, it works. And it's... I'm with you. I have not given up on it, but it's not in my top 100.
Yeah, no, I have a love for games that not only are fun as games, but create a story around the night that you play it. Like, and I think that is just... From literally every person who loves this game and talks about it, everybody ascribes that kind of title to it, that it's the game that makes memories, where you're like, I don't care that I died, because there was this awesome moment where I was the engineer, and I got the pods ready, and I was there, and I was one room away from escape, and then all of a sudden, the pilot, who happened to turn at that point, opened up and made a bunch of noise, and they brought out like a mother alien, and the mother alien was right behind me, and I threw like my item at it, and it almost killed it, but it didn't, and then it like speared me through the chest right as, you know, the traitor and one other person got into the escape pods, and they all fled, and I died. And like they remember the night that they played that game. And games like that I love those experiences. And I refuse to I don't want to let go of the dream that this is a game that I just will adore.
I'm with you. I have like way too much Nemesis for a game that I need to make decisions on.
Yeah.
Yeah. But with that, I'll move into my number 83 specifically for the sake of having a back-to-back Awakened Realms narrative here.
Great
my number
Wall?
83 is the Great Wall.
Ooh.
The Great Wall is a phenomenally well-done experience from Awakened Realms. I love playing. It's behind
I
you.
know, I don't see it at all.
I know
Oh,
it's
okay.
somewhere, right?
There, lower.
Right
there.
Yeah, right here.
Yeah. The Great Wall. Okay, fine. Sure. Pull things out. Just pull things off my...
The one and only game we show.
Hey, stop. He's seeing Forbidden Stars and he's having a moment. The Great Wall from Awakened Realms is a worker placement game, which I guess gives me back-to-back worker placement there, but it's done very differently, and to me the thing I love about the Great Wall is not the worker placement. It's nice, I like worker placement. Rather, it's the generals and the advisors. You've played this one, you have not.
I have, yeah. You adore getting those.
It's
Powers and abilities. Powers and abilities.
The way the generals and advisors are, they're just, first of all, the generals have these cool abilities that get stronger with each advisor, which means every time you buy an advisor, you have this hard choice of, do I want that cool advisor's ability because they are all
Or
cool,
do I want to slot them?
do I power up my general? Because
Yeah.
that's also cool. And so you have that aspect trying to toy with as you figure out how to build up and your own unique engine, because now you're really good with the knights and you're really good with the gold. And you're starting to get knights
Yeah.
and gold, and you're filling out your own tableau as you upgrade stuff with the powers and abilities, which feeds into the game. I don't love the action choice as far as playing cards to actually determine the way that you start the round off by playing a card that determines like how many people you're placing and a little bit of an ability around it. I don't like that. I find it fiddly and unnecessary and it convolutes the game. I almost want the Great Wall to have like a second edition where they take out some aspects of the game, because I think the game could be streamlined. But what it does. What?
Send them an email.
I'll send them an email.
Let them
Oh yeah.
know.
Send them an email.
These are my edits.
Yeah. Anyways, yeah, I love the Great Wall. I think it is a little fiddly in some ways. I think it does run long and it is hard to table. But when it gets tabled, and it does get tabled, man, is it good.
Yeah, Great Wall is one of the few things where I played it with the anticipation that I would like it, and then afterwards, I fully backed the new campaign.
Right
like,
choice.
I
Right choice.
went all in on the new campaign, and I got like the gameplay bundle, and I had such a good time playing it. And it's not just because like I lucked my way into winning that game, but it was just an absolute blast, and I like. So, like, one of my seminal experiences growing into the hobby was Lords of Waterdeep. And Lords of Waterdeep, for me, I never play that without Scoundrels of Skullport.
Yes.
And I think that Great Wall is a game that I would never want to play it without the
Black
Generals
Powder.
and Advisors with the Black Powder expansion.
Well, Generals and Advisors are built into the game. Black Powder.
I thought there was an expansion that adds more
all
of
the
them.
expansions add more of them, yes.
Yeah, so, sorry. Like, I think more of them allow you to create that really
More
cool,
combos.
like, combos. And so, having all of them from the expansions, and then the Black Powder where it's advancing, and the reason why I like that is because it makes the wall more threatening, and the reason why that is more fun is if you fail at that, you get shame points. And I like games where you can choose to ignore something at the cost later in the game. So, like, Lords of Waterdeep with Scoundrels of Skullport, you have the corruption tokens. And you can ignore that, but the more you take of those, the more each one of them detracts from your score at the end of the game. And you get to this point where you're like, oh, okay, you have like 100 points, but you have 3 tokens at -7 each. So you actually only have like 70 points.
Yeah.
And you're like, so you like absolutely tanked yourself at the end of that game. So like in Great Wall, you're like, oh man, like I'm doing really well. You're like, oh, I'm taking enough shame that I'm literally having to lock away units that I'm not allowed to use until I can get rid of that shame. And so the negative value of that and the positive value of what you can choose to go for, like classic Alex and I went for completely different strategies in that game. And I was very much more like, I'm going to aggressively help with the fight up here. And Alex was like, you guys do that. The Empire needs resources. I'm going to make those
I'm the
for us."
Empire.
Yeah.
I'm the Empire. The Empire needs resources.
So, I really
To be
enjoyed
clear,
that
though,
game.
it's not semi-co-op. It's really not. The aspect of fighting for the wall gives you points. So
Yeah.
it's just a strategy aspect.
yeah,
Nothing else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I really enjoy that game.
I love it. 83.
83 for me is Viticulture Essential Edition. Viticulture is a
Worker
game
placement.
that worker placement is like my favorite mechanic, so it's gonna be on my list for a bit. But Viticulture is a game that I have not until very recently owned. I played it off of a friend's copy and did not care for it. To be fair, I have never played it with the Tuscany expansion, which the vast majority of people who are Viticulture fans say you should not play it without it. Essentially, people will say...
What are you saying?
I think we've said this a few times now. If you need to add an expansion to a base game to make it playable...
That's my root complaint.
Yeah, that's not...
I don't actually agree with that complaint, though. Meaning, I agree with the complaint. Sorry, I agree with you. I don't agree with people who say that Tuscany is essential.
Needed? Yeah.
I like Viticulture just fine without Tuscany, and I think Tuscany adds to it, and I would generally play without. But, like, there's some games, like, if I play Seven Wonders without leaders, I feel like I'm missing out. If I play Viticulture, without Prelude or whatever,
right.
I feel like I'm making the wrong choice.
Yeah.
If I play Viticulture without Tuscany, I'm totally fine with it.
Interesting.
I prefer Tuscany.
Yeah. So I've never played it with the thing that people say is, like, essential.
Yeah.
Or so valuable that they feel like they're making a mistake not having it in. But I enjoyed it more. I played it solo recently, and then I also played it again at multiplayer, and it kind of like grew on me a little bit. Like my first experience with it, I was like, I would pick just about any other worker placement game. Yeah. Because at the same time when I played it originally, I had played stuff like Raiders of the North Sea, Architects of the West Kingdom, Paladins. I'm like, all of these are, to me, more intriguing worker placement games than Viticulture. And the complaints that I do have about it, I think might be fixed with Tuscany to some degree. But it is still just such a stable experience. And I had a better time with it not actually there are certain aspects, certain strategies that when you play a game for the first time seem counterintuitive. When you play Friday or other games where you're like, oh, it actually makes sense to get rid of good things in your deck to increase the chances of getting better things in your deck way more frequently. And like seeing that short-term loss for a long-term investment and being able to recognize that you should make that decision, like the first time I ever played Viticulture, I was like, why would I ever sell one of my fields?
Yeah.
Like, why would I ever do that?
I don't think I ever play it without selling a field now.
And now it's like, I did that in my solo play, and I'm like, this gives me so much more momentum to get money and like, get my engine going, that I was like, why would I ever not do that now? Yeah. And so, recognizing certain strategies that make maybe like immediate nonsense, but make long-term good sense. It was probably a better way for me to like look at playing this game. So I had a much better time playing Viticulture recently. I enjoy playing it with you guys because I haven't played it with you all yet, and I'd enjoy trying out Tuscany. But it was good enough that I was like, I love worker placement. I also really like what Stonemaier does with worker placement with the Grande worker, because it's kind of like a little bit of a small coup. In so many other games that I play in worker placement, if I go somewhere or you go somewhere, no one else can go there. Except in places like, Everdell and other things where you have larger areas that multiple workers can go to. But the idea of having like a trump card where you're like, I can go there because I have my Grande still. And choosing when to do that is really cool. Or choosing to play one of your workers to force somebody else to have to use their Grande on that spot if they want it. That little small decision space adds another element to the worker placement strategy that I like, and I think that's really clever. And it comes into play in Pendulum and other titles of theirs, but I really like the Grande worker little element there. So yeah, Viticulture for me.
Meg, you 83?
Did I not do my... Yeah, I didn't do my 83. My number 83, I don't think either of you played. I think you don't really have interest in playing that. We've talked about it. It's Miskatonic School for Girls. I do believe it may be rated a little bit lower.
Is that Lovecraftian, I'm assuming?
It certainly is.
Because Miskatonic University is... Okay.
So it's a deck building game where you are playing as a class of girls, and you are in a Lovecraft-based world where it's almost Harry Potter meets Arkham, and you are trying to get through class, and each turn you are going to buy yourself another classmate, but you're also buying a teacher for someone else. So I like that you're pushing cards into someone else's deck where you have a market of them, and you can pick more punishing things and force these teachers toward them. And then every time you have two phases where there's your purchase phase and then your class phase, and during class you're trying to mitigate the teachers that you draw, and you slowly go mad, which is a common theme for Arkham games.
Yeah.
I love it. I think it's extremely charming. like I said, it makes it feel almost like Harry Potter, and I've strayed away from Harry Potter things recently, so for me it's very, very fun. And it's something that, again, I picked up, I want to say in like 2013. I play it every December. There's a holiday expansion where it's holiday break, where all of the cards have Christmas lights around them and stuff on the other side, and there's snow. And it's just, I think it's very charming. I think it's one of the funner deck building games where you can push things into other people's decks.
But if I put bug stickers on it, would you like it even more?
Bug sleeves. And they go.
It actually is, because I had no interest in it. I still
Your explanation has gotten me intrigued.
Like the idea of the teachers and shoving them into your deck. Like, teachers, is there an umbrage I could throw your way? Because that'd be nice.
Yeah, and honestly, it's very frustrating because there are some teachers that are just so powerful, and then they get pushed toward you, but then you can do different things to mitigate them, or maybe move them on to someone else again. And then your other classmates, some of them are very powerful, where they can really help you.
You're selling this well.
Yeah.
You're selling this
Yeah.
well.
I really enjoy it. It's really fun deck building.
After this?
What's your 82 after this?
My 82 is another party game. It's one that's very light. I do it more, again, for the experience of playing with other people than so much the game mechanics. It's Red Dragon Inn. Have either of you played that?
I have not.
Okay, so Red DragonInn is extremely
Why do we
light.
need two of us here?
It's very light. You have your player board, and there are two things. So, thematically, you are a bunch of adventurers, and you're at a tavern, and you guys are all drinking and relaxing after a very tough battle. So the battle's already happened. You don't have to worry about that part. You're all just hanging out. And the different things you're doing are drinking, buying drinks for other people, and gambling. So you can gamble with your friends. And they're all different decks. So each deck is very unique. There is some that's like a diviner, where you can kind of predict things ahead of time. There are some where like the rogue is very good with cheating and playing cards, and there are some that give you different token tracks where they have unique abilities, like Pookie, who's a bunny rabbit.
Pookie.
And then, like, you know, there are other characters like Grog who are good, that if he starts getting drunk, he'll attack other people. So
His name's Grog?
Yes.
That's a good name for
Someone who gets drunk and attacks people, yes.
And the whole mechanic of it is that you have your player board, and there's numbers 1 to 20, and you have your, oh gosh, I'm not going to remember now. It's like your clarity or something like that, and then your drunkenness, and it's these two gems that once they meet, you pass out because you're drunk. And there are other cards like coffee where you can kind of sober up a little bit, but basically you're trying to be the last man standing so that you can scoop the gold from the table and all your friends passed out.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
I mean, it has a million expansions. I just never found myself actually playing it. As much as these games have been around for long enough, I just never got to. But that's one of them, yeah.
All of the decks are very unique, which I really enjoy. The one thing I will say against it is once you're out, which for a game that you can play with 6 to 8 people, I think that's one of the things it suffers from, is that as soon as you're out, there's not really much else you can do. So every time I've played it, I've had people leave the table, like, as you start leaving. But it is a really good game that if you have a big group, you all start with that, and then as people start breaking off, then you start playing smaller games. You know, 2 people go play Dune, a couple other people go play something else.
Two people play Dune?
Well, I don't know.
Why do we need two of us
I don't know
here,
why I
Devin?
said 2. Whatever.
This is a very specific game with a specific player count that I would not mentally associate
I don't
with.
even know why I said Dune, because I think it was Splendor that they broke off.
You
the
mean
play.
Dune War for Arrakis, the new Command
Yes.
title,
Yeah,
obviously.
that makes way more
sense.
Word for word, twice now.
No, I don't even think it was Dune. I think it was Splendor. But either way, you can break off and start
Two
playing other
very
things.
synonymous games.
You know,
Like,
they're very similar.
first 2 people get done. You know, the first person to get out, you go solo Twilight Imperium. You know, it's like,
Anyways.
82 for me.
I normally play games with 2 players, guys. That's the only thing I do.
I mean, I love Dune Imperium enough. I would still play it at 2-player and just use the House Hagal.
Yeah.
You know, extra house. It's still a really good game. All right, 82 for me is a game that I no longer own. And I no longer own it because I just don't think I'll ever be able... I was like, I'm never going to get this to the table, even though I would love to play it. And it's a game that I would love to play a lot, and it's Android Netrunner.
Oh.
I really liked Android Netrunner. I liked it a lot. I played it like 2 or 3 times, and then I was like, I'm going to buy this. I was like, I really like this.
It's very cool.
I was like, this is such a fun 1v1, like, head-to-head experience. And have you played this at all?
Before people go break off and play.
Yeah, like everybody starts to
Do you
play
appreciate
Android Netrunner. Yes.
I played it a long time ago, when like way back when I want to say when it first came
Like
out.
it's again, along with Elder Sign, it's like a classic Fantasy Flight Games
Yeah.
title, and I really enjoyed it. I actually think it's getting like a little bit of a new life right now through a fan-made version or expansion that is like really like it has its own community that has like grown up around it and keeps it alive, even though it's dead in terms of Fantasy Flight doing
I
anything
love it
with
when
it.
groups do that.
And so it's just based off of your like card playing background, I think you would really enjoy it.
That's what I was always interested in, but
it's always one where it's like someone is the corporation and someone is the hacker.
I think I actually have played it.
Yeah, it's so much fun, and it's just like Amber's. It's not her kind of game, and if I'm gonna do 2-player games consistently, Amber's the person I'm playing with, and I was like, she's not gonna want to play this.
So to me, that's one that fell into the victim of the aspect of LCGs. I'm very much an all or nothing person. I like getting it all, and I liked Android Netrunner a lot, and when it first came out, and I got a few expansions, and then I found that I wasn't keeping up with it, and then I really liked the nature, like the way they just handle the asymmetry in the game and how elegant the game managed to be with such an asymmetric division of everything. It was really elegant, but I didn't like it enough to keep up with it.
LCGs are the kind of game for me that I actually don't have a problem with their continued evolution, because my preference is usually to not keep like accruing more and more and more and playing against someone else who is doing the same and us competing our decks against each other. It's much more having what I have and playing it with someone who's like local to me and we're using the same copy, so I'm not worried about someone who's got their deck in the meta.
No, I just want it all. I'm not worried about meta. I just want it all.
Yeah, no, that's fair too. But
and the problem is some of these LCGs, if you can't just always say, well, I'll get it later, because some of them go out of print, they become ridiculously expensive.
Yeah.
So I'm currently with Marvel Champions, and I'm like, okay, I'm just going to get everything Marvel Champions. And I won't play most of it, but I'm going to get everything because I like the game enough that I think I'll have it for a long time.
But I really like 2-player experiences where you don't have the same thing and it's just a difference of how you use it. I really like 2-player experiences that start off asymmetric.
Speaking.
So, Star Wars Rebellion, Dune War for Arrakis, Android Netrunner, because you play from completely different perspectives of the company or the corporation who has more power, more ability to lay out cards, and then the hackers who have more ability to disrupt stuff. And I really like that disjointed way that you have to approach the game, and it's so much fun. And I knew I was never going to get stable, so I eventually got rid of it. But it's one of those ones that it's like it leaves, and you're like, I wish
Goodbye.
it didn't leave.
It's a good game.
Yeah. So.
Speaking of 2-player asymmetric experiences that are really awesome, my into 2 is Air, Land, and Sea Critters at War.
I love.
It's a good game.
Wait.
Critters at War. The Critters at War is just cartoon artwork. Not the expansion. Not the expansion. Meaning, Air, Land, and Sea, just to give you context, is a 2-player game. Then they have Air, Land, and Sea Spies, Lies, and Disguise, which is the standalone expansion that's the same concept with new decks. And then they have Critters at War, which is just the cartoonized version of the original. And then they have Air, Land, and Sea Flies, Lies in Disguise, or whatever it is, for Spies in Disguise, I don't know what it is. But they basically have 2 product lines, the cutesy artwork and then the non-cutesy artwork, and then within each they have 2 different games.
Yeah.
They're all
Are you counting Critters at War is the same as Air, Land, and Sea?
Air, Land, and Sea.
Okay.
It's the concept of Air, Land, and Sea, regardless of which of the 4 ones you pick.
Yeah, okay.
It's an amazing experience of 18 cards. That's all it is.
Yeah.
It's 18 cards. There's 3 different factions in each one, and then they have 6 cards in each faction, numbered 1 through 6, and then at any given point you know that what's in play. But you draw 6 cards, I draw 6 cards, and 6 cards are not in play. But we know those cards. We know everything's going on. And we try to play this game of I'm trying to think whether I win or lose as I play cards to the 3 different theaters of battle. The thing I love about it is not just as you know the cards, you start to get a better sense of how you'll react to my cool abilities, but there's this aspect of the game where you can at any point withdraw and lose fewer points.
Such a good
Because it only takes 12 points to win. But if you and I go all the way to the finish, the person who wins gets 6 points. Which means if we go all the way to the finish, it's just 2 rounds of combat. That's all it is.
It is one of the most brilliant introductions of a mechanic that is so averse to what most people want in a game, and that I hardly have ever seen.
You're folding. That's what you're doing. You are folding as you play. You're like, oh, you know what? I'm going to play a card here. I'm going to play a card here. Actually,
I don't think I have it.
I don't think I have it. You pull back. And I find I play against people who consistently will have better hands, but I'll win the game because they refuse to back away. And I'm like, walk away. You're losing. Don't lose 6 points.
Walk away.
Like, walk away. Learn to let go.
Yeah.
But they're like, no, I have this one card that might wake. You're not going to win. Move on.
Yeah.
And it's just so well done. And it plays in like 15 minutes. It's one of the best 2-player games I have in my collection.
I know that it's not higher on your list, but just that game is a masterclass in design.
It's so well done.
18 cards, like, just less is more. Like, what that game does with what it has is...
I think it's like I think it's like the second review ever had on this channel. When I started this channel,
Chef's
I was
kiss.
like, I didn't really care about reviews. I talked about, like, you know, Zombicide and whatnot for a first video or something like that. And then my third video, and I just played Airline and Scene. I was like, I want to talk about this game. One of my first reviews ever.
Yeah. It's such a good game. Have you
Meg?
played it?
No.
Oh,
After this! 82, Meg.
I did my 82, but my number 81, speaking of a 2-player experience.
Are we on our last ones for everybody?
Yeah, it looks
I
like
think so.
81.
My 82 was Red Dragon Inn.
Oh, you started 82.
That's right, that happened.
But I have another 2-player experience, which is Unmatched.
Which version?
I put Unmatched Volume
Each
2.
other at this point. Ooh.
I didn't even realize it. It's just starting to become natural. This is problematic.
I put Volume 2, but I think out of all the ones I have, the most
Cobble
played
and
is,
Fall?
I have Bigfoot versus... No, I'm not going to remember because I'm always Bigfoot.
Little Red Riding Hood?
Maybe?
I don't remember.
I'm always Bigfoot. I can't remember who it is. Robin Hood, maybe? I'm not sure.
It is Robin Hood, I think. Yeah, it's Big.
Little
Like,
Red
where
Riding
is this? I'm
Hood.
grabbing it.
What?
Cute little, like, connection. Red Riding Hood versus Robin Hood.
Yeah. So yeah, that one I really enjoy. It's one of the games that I think I don't love as much before I play, and then after playing, I'm like, wow, that was really fun, and I did enjoy it.
I think that's the problem with that game for me, is I think I got rid of my Volume 1 copy. Someone sent me Cobble and Fog, which is the one I'm personally the most interested in, because like Victorian era London
cool,
stuff, I love that. All of those different characters are like classic literature characters that I really like, you know, that appeal to me.
I love Bigfoot.
But I think that's a game that other people don't seem to want to play it, and so I don't get it played. But then when I've played it, I'm like, that was fun.
Yeah.
Like, that was
It
fun.
is pretty simple, and you're moving around on a pretty small board. So you have these miniatures, and you're basically just skirmishing and attacking each other, trying to kill the other person, moving around the board. And I love that it is a small contained board, that you are pretty much forced to just start going head-to-head right away, trying to survive. And I do feel like with all the different characters, they're matched really well. That they're all a bit balanced, that they all behave differently, but you still feel strong every time when you're playing.
I think the weird thing for me is that Unmatched sits in this, like, no man's land for what it is.
Yeah.
Like, it's a skirmish game, but it makes me think of other skirmish games, and I'm like, oh man, I want to play that skirmish game right now. And then it's got card and deck management, or like card playing, but it makes me think of games that have more robust, like, card decks and stuff like that. And I'm like, oh man, I want to play that game. And so because of the mechanics it has, when I look at it, I'm like, ooh, well, that actually makes me want to play that game and that game. Because they do more of those two things. And so, like, I don't even get it to the table because as I'm looking at it, I'm thinking of other games. But when it gets to the table, I'm like, man, this was fun.
And it is a pretty quick play. Like, that being said, I don't know if I choose it that often, but when you only have a little bit of time, it is a pretty quick playthrough that I want to say it's like 15 minutes?
Yeah, it's not too long.
Yeah.
No, that's a good one. That's a good one. What's your 81?
My 81 is, I don't know if you've played it. I know you've played it. My 81 is Mechs vs. Minions.
Oh, I haven't played it yet.
It's Mechs vs. Minions is cooperative action programming, basically. You're going to spend the game, you're basically playing as these mechs. It's from League of Legends, from the thematically, but nothing really to do with it past that. You're playing as these mechs, you're stomping on...
That.
Yeah,
It's
playing
from
as
League of
mechs.
Legends, yeah.
You're stomping on these minions.
I bought it after watching Arcane.
It's good. Oh, that's nice. It's a good game. It's a good game. And you're playing as these giant robots. Pre-painted robots. It's very nice and everything and beautiful.
The literal, like, if I could pick one game that I think is actually the absolute best cost to price value, that I don't know if it's arguable that like, if that game came out on Kickstarter now, it'd be like a $175 game.
I believe
and they sell it for $90 on their website.
I believe the goal was
Or
not
95.
to make money. I think the goal was
No, they just did it for the love of
Yeah.
the team at Riot loves board games, and they're like, we're gonna make a board game, because they've also come out with Tellstones, which is
let's go back to Mechs and Minions.
which is not a lot, but yeah, it's crazy game in terms of
it-
production.
And what you're doing is the whole purpose of the game is to have these goals. So you're going through a sequence of 10 missions, and each one unlocks a few things, but it's a campaign, not legacy. You don't destroy anything. And so what you're going through is you go through this process of having these cards that are going to go into your board to program your mech, ways of moving, to charge forward, to defend yourself, and to pick off minions. And you're trying to plan around this movement and destruction of the minions while trying to accomplish your goals, but you have like a timer where you have to desperately try to draft cards cooperatively, working together. You're and I picking cards, trying to figure out how to like build our mechs, and then stomp around the board crushing minions. It's just a satisfying minion slugfest while you try not to die. You don't really die in the game, your mech gets damaged, which stops you from being able to accomplish your goals.
Do you play it with your kids?
No, I'm not. No.
I was wondering if Avery would like it.
Avery could like it.
At
I think it is. I think at his age range, like I think Ricky would enjoy it. I just happen to have not played with it yet. But like, it's just really, really fun. Great production value. I still haven't finished it. I've gone like halfway through the game twice now. But like, it's just when you play it, it's just a lot of fun.
And that game spawns so many minions that it does feel overwhelming. I want to say that there's only, Dead of Winter, the amount of zombies, I have always said from the beginning, you're overwhelmed. And Mechs vs. Minions was the first time, we played it only a few months ago, but that was the first time since Dead of Winter that I felt so overwhelmed by the sheer number of enemies coming at you. The amount that spawn, I was like, are you sure?
Are you
gosh.
You open the box and you pull out a tray,
so many.
and there's like 30 minions. And you pull out the next tray, and there's like 30 minions.
Yeah.
You pull out the next tray, and you're like, do we use all these minions? You're like, yeah.
We had like 100 on the board at one point.
It gets insane the way these things
play
spawn.
it, guys.
It's fun.
Yeah, it's fun.
very fun.
It's fun.
Nice. Okay, my 81 is another solo experience, which I think I've had 3 at this point. That's weird. That's crazy for me. Veilwraith.
Interesting.
And this is a game from Tristan Hall Productions, and I'm pointing past the camera to 1815, which is their historic epic battle system game that just came off of Kickstarter. Veilwraith is such a simple game structure. You like have 3 actions of what you do, and I don't have the reason why it could be higher or that I haven't played it since is that I don't have the expansion that came off of Kickstarter, which greatly increases the variability and number of in scenarios and in like paths and arcs that you can go through. So I kind of like played what I could from the base game in a decently quick amount of time. But it is such a simple game that actually has really, in terms of like talking about games like Friday and other stuff where you like learn how to not lose at the game, it is a brutal game. Veilwraith is a brutal game, but I love the art aesthetic of it. I really like black and white stuff. It's why, Themeborn and Escape the Dark series, I always enjoy those. But I really like the art aesthetic of it, and just the card art is really, really, really good. Tristan and his wife do a fantastic job. And then I took this game around with me, and I played it so much during like last summer while my son was doing like summer camp or science camp or whatever, and I just kept bringing it to this coffee shop and I just kept playing it. And I was like, man,
these actions just keep powering up.
This game is good. I was like, and it's so easy to play, and those actions when you power them up feel really good. And yeah, I had a lot of fun with this title. So you've played it?
I've played it. I still may keep going through it. It's actually one... We'll talk about it. But yeah, it's one that... You just have these 3 actions. You're trying to power up your actions, just take down these baddies as they slowly just wither away at your health or your points, whatever it is, while taking your... Trying to... It's all about the economy. It's all about the economy of the game. But you also go through, like, I think it's 20 missions. Is that what it is? Somewhere that range, 20 missions.
You see how far you can make it.
Yeah, you see how far you can make it as you level up and power through the next progression, Yeah. I was definitely very compelled by it, but I need to play it more.
Yeah. It's such like a dark horse, like I did not expect to love it as much as I did. I was like, wow, this is really good.
Every time you say Dark Horse, I think of the comics. And I'm like, is it by Dark Horse?
I love Dark Horse comics. They have a lot of good comics.
Yeah.
It's what I walked into expecting it would be good just because Tristan Hall has a reputation already. But yeah, I'm still curious to see where it lands.
A good reputation?
A good reputation.
Okay, I was like, I don't know about that.
Expecting. I mean, his stuff
Most of the time when people say they have a reputation, it's not a good connotation.
When you start off with, I expect it to be good because he has a reputation.
That's fair. That's fair.
In any case, that is numbers 90 through 81. That's 30 games. Do we have no crossovers again?
No crossovers.
None yet.
That's pretty impressive.
With 20 games
we
each,
had,
60
we
games.
had like a halfy one
Doesn't
last
count.
time.
That is
Doesn't count.
crazy.
Critters at War versus Airland and Sea Critters at War would count. But, like, you know, there's a level, like, I think Welcome to and Welcome to the Moon are different games.
Yeah.
I think they are.
I think once we start getting closer to the top, that's when we'll start seeing crossovers.
We'll see, Miss Kabuto Sumo.
In any case, and until next time, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game & Co.
I'm Devon.
I'm Professor Meg.
I hope you have a good one.
See ya.
Bye.